Thank you, Gary, and thank you, the three governors, for joining us here today. It's extremely good to have you back here. And I'm grateful to be here, especially for the task force. I noticed, I think, about 6 members of the task force have been or were here or are leaving here at the same time, whatever. Let me tell you what I'm going to ask each of you so you can be thinking about it, and then preface this for just a second. So, Governor Herbert, I want to hit you up on the consultation concept again, go into more detail on that. Ms. Martinez, I do want to talk to you about how we can make this effort on federalism bipartisan approach. And for Governor Otter, I want to talk to you again about what you called mission creep, or creeping conditionalism. You have to realize, I mean, there are about 266 former legislators who are members of Congress. I don't know why we forget our lessons we learned in the state legislature, but it seems that when we come here to Congress, all of a sudden, we want to solve all sorts of problems regardless of how those problems are solved. There is something that is very unique now, as both parties, both liberals and conservatives, are now talking about federalism under different titles more than ever before. If I notice, Senator Feinstein has a bill that deals with federalism dealing with drones, and Representative Cohen has one that deals with drug policy, and Senator Baldwin has one that deals with health partnership, and one of you mentioned a resolution by Representative Carter. People are now talking about that. This is an opportunity we have of actually trying to implement it. So, Governor Herbert, let me start with you. You talked about collaboration, how important it is. We have long talked about consultation is important. How do we actually define consultation here to allow that state and local governments are ensured that they are consulted and that their comments are taken seriously? For example, we've had court cases in the state of Utah where commissioners, decisions have been thrown out because they said the commissioners had too much influence vis-a-vis NGOs. How do we ensure that states actually do fulfill that consultation role?
I think part of it is that what I talked about, a culture of change. We need to go back and review the role of the federal government in conjunction with the role of the states. It is often forgot that the federal government was, as Butch Otter has said, created by the states. And we are sovereign states. We are, as Justice Bryant said, laboratories of democracy. We do have a role to play. And that's part of an attitude thing. For whatever reason, we've got to the point where we seem to ignore the role of the states and aren't listening to what the states are doing and let them perform their role as laboratories of democracy.
You went through a litany of laws in which it's allowed. Would it be better if we actually wrote laws so it was mandated?
I think that, one, there ought to be a mandate to listen and respect the role of the states. And again, it's not a matter of just checking off a box and saying, well, we've got your input, now we'll ignore it.
Okay.
We think that the states should have a role to make decisions, and we ought to devolve the decision-making power back to the states. We'd get a better result and less cost to the taxpayer.
Governor Martinez, how can we make this concept of federalism bipartisan? I mean, you represent a purple state, whereas in Utah and Idaho, I think we've got zoning ordinances that keep Democrats at bay.
If only you had a little purple.
Very well. I'm not going to say anything about Californians. So, how do we make this issue bipartisan?
Thank you for that question. So sorry, I forget the button. Thank you very much for that question, Congressman Bishop. I think it's important that we remember that we're not politicians, but we're actually leaders. I am a Republican governor in a state where we're outnumbered 3-1 by Democrats and independents, and so therefore, I have a very clear understanding that I represent all the people of New Mexico and not just those who voted for me or those of the same party. We have done this many times through, for example, when I expanded Medicaid. When I expanded Medicaid, it was not necessarily something that was a Republican thing to do. However, I went on a listening tour, private and local communities, private businesses. I did it with organizations and advocacy groups, and wanted to hear why I should or should not expand Medicaid. And at the end of the day, I did what was right for the people of New Mexico. I actually did expand Medicaid, and I have also, through that process, costs per month, per person and per month have actually gone down, and that's why we're a leader in New Mexico, because this was not a political decision.
I appreciate you doing that because you're talking about the attitude that Governor Herbert was talking about. and in the 5 seconds I've got left, I appreciate where you're talking because we're going to have an energy bill that tries to partner with the states to allow the states to do all the paperwork, keep the federal standards, but the states do the paperwork to see if we can actually work together more. I hope that comes in there. Butch, I'm out of time, but if there's a second round, I want to come back to this idea of mission creep and creeping conditionalism with you. I'll yield back, but sorry.